Dear friends, добрый вечер, good morning, good day, good afternoon, everyone. This is such a happy day, such a happy evening because we have a great event at the American Center Moscow with the beloved guest, Joy Jones and Taya Golovanova. Hi, everyone. How are you all today?
I'm feeling good. It's a beautiful day here in Washington, D.C., warm, sunny.
So awesome. Washington, D.C. in the house. So awesome. Taya, what about you? How are you today? Where are you at?
Was the same. I'm in the Tenerife, in the island in Tenerife, and I'm happy too. I was swimming a little bit this morning, doing my things with Charles. It's a good day, how every day. No?
Nice. Nice to see everyone being awesome today. Yes. So today we talk about the art of writing children's books. And this is super awesome topic. And we have super awesome guests. We have Joy Jones, who is an incredible author. Also, she published a lot of books. Also, she's a double Dutch rope activist and a member of DC Retro Jumpers team, and she's also into a lot of community activism, a lot of teaching practices, and she's also in hip hop world. She's also an MC, spoken word artist as well. Yes, much love, Joy. I hope I didn't forget any of the spheres you're into because it's a lot.
Thank you.
So awesome. And Taya is an artist, also an activist, eco activist who is into helping the world to get rid of trash, and also a beginner author who has recently self-published a book as well. That's right, Taya.
Yes.
So awesome, yes. And I myself also write things. I write researches on subcultural topics as hip hop, and also I write articles about technology, namely blockchain and Web3. So all of us three, we write things. So we have a lot of things in common. Well, let's get started. Let's go, people. Let me begin with asking you to show us a little bit of visuals. You have Joy, you have a lot of books behind you. Taya, you have your books behind you. Can you show us a little bit? How do they look? Just flip the pages a little bit so that the audience, they have the feeling of what it is. Yeah, let's begin with you, Joy. Yes, here we go.
This is my latest book. It came out during the pandemic. It's called Jayla Jumps In. And it's about a girl who starts a double Dutch team. And I'm someone who started a double Dutch team here in Washington, D.C. My team started out as having fun with adults, other grown women who wanted to relive their childhood. And so we got together to jump rope. And then that expanded to the point where it became multi-generational. And then it expanded even further, and we had the opportunity to jump rope in Russia, which is how I met Bobish on our tour of Moscow, St. Petersburg, and Belgorod.
Awesome. Yes. What a great story. Yes. Taya, would you show us something of your production? Yes. Let us see, let us feel. Let's see the visuals. Yes.
Was in the Finnish variants. I haven't so much books. I have many texts, but not always those texts are finished now in the process. But one book, what we are using in two languages, it's Spanish, because we are living in Spain, a Russian variation for sure, because it's our native languages. For sure, all texts I'm creating in Russians. And after this, my friends helped me to translate this. But for me, way for two books starting like from illustration. I'm also like illustrator of my things. I try to illustrate for other books, and because I'm artist, like my first profession. No, it's my profession. I'm artist, and after this, I'm starting to do some books because it was my memory from for long period. Yes, it's okay. It's look like this Russian variant, Spanish.
So awesome. Yes, really, really cool. All right, people. So
I have a question. What is the title of the book in English?
Yes, I hope we will do it because they have left for it.
I hope we haven't translated it yet. Yes, so probably it's something like, clean up game, clean game, something like this. Yes.
Okay.
This is the best I can produce right now. Since we touched the topic of translations, let me ask you, both you, Joy, and you, Taya, what's your dream? Like, what language?
Of languages. I have studied Spanish, French, and American Sign Language. Regrettably, I am not fluent in any of those. I spent a summer in France many years ago, and I was beginning to have fluency in French, and I would like to recapture that at some point. So the language I have most fluency in is French, so I guess that would be the first language I would like to see my words translated into. But I need to practice my French lessons first, I guess, before that happens.
Would you like to translate yourself, or would you find?
Oh no, someone else has to do it. I'm not that
person to translate it.
I am impressed that Taya was able to translate into Spanish, as well as, of course, her home language of Russian. I'm very impressed.
Cool. All right. What about you, Taya? Yes. What languages would you like to translate your book into?
Maybe I not understood, but I'm not translated these books because for translating books in Spanish, for translating, it's very important to understanding the jokes, the history of country, the tradition of country. It's not only languages. For sure, I'm speaking Spanish because I'm living here. Not so perfectly how I can, how I want. I can, but problem when we're translating, we need to understanding the traditional. For example, it's like in Harry Potter, John Rowling. I read this book in 3 languages: my native Russian, in English, and Spanish. And wow. I was surprised when I started to read the Spanish version. And I saw like about some sweetie things. It was Spanish sweetie things. It was like in our country with childs didn't know about this, but we using this for understanding, for situation when childs can be more deeply understanding the poetry of these books, of languages. About what my dream about languages, for sure I have country that's influence on the influence and my identity. It's like the Sweden. It's like Finland. Sweden languages with writers the Tove Jansson. No sé, I don't know how it's pronunciation in English variation. And it was, for me, it's like it's my dream to see these books in a country what was impressed me too much in my life. And 2 countries, Finland and Spanish. For sure, it's English because many books, history about English, it's like many books. The Alice from Wonderland and others was very, I was impressing about this. I was impressed.
Awesome. Yes. To build on this, let's continue talking about inspirations. Yes. So, Joy, who were your major inspirations? Yes. Who inspired you to start writing at the first place?
Oh, I would have to give my parents credit for being my first inspiration. My mother was a teacher, and so learning to read was very important for her to teach me to do that. And my father, he used to read stories to me, but then if he read a book one time, then I would insist that he read every single page of that book over and over again. So he would be tired after working all day and it would be bedtime and I'd want to hear a story and he didn't want to read the whole book. So he got rid of the books and he would just talk to me about his life. And my first children's book is called Tambourine Moon. And it was the result of a story he told me when I was a little girl, and I added my own imagination to it. The benefit in him making up stories or just talking about his life was that I couldn't tell him, no, you skipped a page, or no, that story is longer than that. He was telling me his own stories, and I couldn't edit him. So if he didn't feel like telling a long bedtime story, he could make it short that particular evening. And I couldn't contradict him on how the story should go because it was his personal narrative he was sharing with me. So those two influences, my mother, who insisted that I learn how to read at an early age and would take me to the library every week so we could collect books, and my father, who would tell me bedtime stories about his life or make up stories from his own imagination. Those were my best and first inspirations for getting started, wanting to be a teller of stories myself. I can remember the very first book I read. I was in first grade, and we had a book called Tip. And Tip was a story about a little dog that was brown and black all over, except his tail had a little white tip. And I remember when we finally learned in class to read the entire book from beginning to end, memorized all the hard words in the story. I was so excited. And I came home and I read the book to my parents over and over and over and over again. I know they probably were going crazy listening to me prattle on about this story about a dog. But I just thought that was such a wonderful, magical, exciting thing to be able to read, to look at a page and transform it into a story. So those things excited me and inspired me.
Oh, that's a beautiful story. It is. It is. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Taya, what about you? Your family experiences, like your parents, your relatives, your family, who read books with you? Yes, who did that?
Um, I I'm not remembering in which moment I'm starting to read book because it's was. I think it was all life I read books, but it's really not true because for sure it was. But the first books, what I'm remembering, it was interesting. We are living in our country now, but I have this book here when our mom, our mom, not, uh, sent this book to us because it was very important for me to read this book to my child because I'm remembering the long period these books all the times I'm returning. It's not so funny books. It's like it's all books about the blue цапля, голубая цапля.
All right.
Lev, do you know this word? Not.
Russian
Is
audience would understand us. Yes, no
yes,
problem.
these books was very sad, really, very sad, but very sensitive. And I'm remembering that in the house of my grandma, it's the first my memory about how I'm reading these books. I'm not remembering the period of these ages, but I'm remembering these books. And for me, I'm writing in the old times in my house was like many books. It was important things in my house for my family to reading. And I'm remembering like my mom was recollecting many books, and I think it's a very big experience in my past for me. And for sure, after this many years, I'm speaking inside my inside my head many things. And for me, writing it's like to our voice, voice to explain something important. The form for child's books for me, I'm remembering this. It's not only funny books. Many people think that now in literature there is different books for sure, but many things very funny. But sometimes literature for child not so funny. Very for adults people too. You know, my Spanish trying to to push my English after much.
Oh, good. We love Spanglish too. Yes, yes.
Yes,
I'm a big friend of
and I'm
Spanglish.
understanding in the moment when I want to say in Spanish word. Yes, and is my aunt, for example, to she have her memory about my dad in the books. It was for me very good supporting too.
All
This.
right. Yes, yes, yes. This is important, people. This is important. Yes, family, father, mother, grandparents, great grandparents. Yes, a lot of messages. A lot of messages we carry from there. Absolutely, people. Let me ask you a little provocative question. So let's talk a little bit about negative feedback. For example, Jayla jumps in, or Limpia, Chista Igra. So both you, Joy, and you, Taya, you encourage people to take action. You encourage people to jump into the rope and start jumping. And Taya encourages people to go and clean up the trash on the beach. Parents may get confused, they may get scared. What's up? Trash is dirty. Jumping rope is dangerous. Yes. Have you ever gotten any negative feedback, and what was it? How did you deal with it? Let's begin with you, Joy.
With Jayla Jumps In, I really can't say I've gotten negative feedback. Everybody loves to play. Children in the United States don't play outdoors as much as they did when I was a kid. And so most people see that as a positive thing to suggest to children that they go outside and have fun. It's been a pleasant ride for me. I can't say that anybody has had much to say that hurt my feelings or made me feel bad. The only negative was me. Originally, a colleague suggested that I write about double dutch, and I didn't warm to the idea initially. At that time, I was managing the double dutch team, and as the manager, I had to organize people and do public relations, and I figured I had said everything I could say about double dutch. I didn't want to talk about double dutch any further. But this person was knowledgeable about the publishing market, and she really encouraged me to give it a try. And when I sat down with a blank sheet of paper and started writing, I found out I did have another story to tell about double dutch. So that was the only negative, me not wanting to do it initially. But I'm so glad I
did. Yes, what a great feeling. Yes, I know exactly what you mean. Yes. What about you, Taya? Any parents worried that children will touch, dirty trash on the street?
Yes, for sure. Yes, for sure. It's not about my books. It's about people don't tell me about how your books bad. Not. It's not about. But I can see with people reactions about our projects when we are inviting. Sometimes I'm feeling like we like maybe, but when it's starting to moments when we need to go, and because our projects, for example, it's not about to so much cleaning. It's not about to educations for childs, for families, not to how to tell this, not to do with trash in the streets. It's because it's education starting with very small ages, and in my books it's like playing, and some people, okay, it's a good idea, but when the moment when we need to imagine what we need to take these, no, it's most about education. So for sure in our meeting we are collecting, we are trying to clean a little bit the beach and others, but I heard a very only good participation, conversation about this. It wasn't. It was about the projects. We went, okay, the next time, the next time. But many people not.
Yeah, but even my little addition, even when people say next time, and even if they don't visit, it doesn't mean that they don't get impacted. Even having that in mind, that it exists, it's already some message that people send. Awesome. People, we remind you that who is watching on YouTube, or if you're watching on vk.com, you can send in your questions, and we will ask these questions live. We will ask Joy and Taya to answer those questions. So you can post them there and we'll read them. Meanwhile, we also have our 2 questions coming in. Let me begin with question number 1. Joy and Taya, how would you describe your unique writing styles? And how do you believe they influence the way children engage with your stories?
I have a fairly straightforward writing style. I write for both adults and children, and I like to write about ordinary things. So I'm not someone who does science fiction or fantasy, or I don't write in a very flowery language. I'm pretty plain and simple. I'm working on a new children's story that will be coming out next year called The Sky is Not Blue. And one of the things I ran into is I think, at least when I was a kid, I liked stories that poked fun at the grown-ups. And in The Sky is Not Blue, one of my colleagues read the story to give me feedback. And she says, Joy, I think you need to tone down how mean the teacher is in your story. And I'm thinking, a kid would have fun reading about a mean teacher who gets in trouble. And my friend said, you do know that the people who buy books for children are adults. You can't make the adults be too bad, because otherwise, teachers and parents and librarians are not going to like the book. So I did tone down that part a little bit, although I still believe that kids like it when the adults are not always the smart authority figures, and they get their comeuppance during the course of a story. So I'm hoping that once they get past the barrier of the adult who's purchasing the book for them, that children feel engaged with the main character who gets to point the finger at the adult and says, you're not the smart one, I'm the smart one this time.
Right. Yes. Word up. Taya, what about you? Your unique style, how would you describe it? Maybe you can also touch a little bit about the idea of drawing on top of the photos from the blog. That's also interesting. Yes. So unique style, Taya. What's your unique style?
Yes, you tell me really things what it's working, because I was like illustration the first times and was illustrator the first times, and what's why when I'm many years before, when I was in one event in Germany, I'm starting to create the story. Maybe it's the first experience when I write it. It was 15 years or before. It was like I'm mixing the that I will show. I'm mixing the photos, and afterwards I'm putting inside my heroes inside the photos. I'm trying to using two sides. For example, it's like real photo inside many objects, but it was the first. My story was very short. It was the first time it was illustration. After we art objects, and afterwards it was a little story. It was fairy tales of Northland. It was about our St. Petersburg place when we was lived in, when we were live in this period. And after many times, I'm starting to do like I'm starting writing how I'm speak with my child. The story it was only my languages, how I'm speaking in real life. And for sure, I like poetry things. I'm really interested about literature. That's why in this moment was a big collections of books. And when I started to do all the times, oh no, it's a bad not it's a phrase I can using all the times. Okay, and I'm feeling like I'm in the process of creating my styles. I'm not feeling it's what's very we are finished.
Right. All right. Yes. Thank you for asking your questions, dear audience. Yes, we encourage you to send more questions. And meanwhile, we have question number 2. And I think this is This is really designed for Joy to answer. Can you share a bit about the process behind writing a children's book from the initial idea to the final published book? What are the main stages?
Okay. Um, it's a long process. Typically, when I have an idea for something I want to write, it's something I have been thinking about for a very long time, years, perhaps decades, that I've been thinking about this idea or concept. And even with the Double Dutch book, Jayla Jumps In, even though someone else suggested it as a topic for a children's book, I had obviously been jumping rope, and I had learned to jump rope as a child and did it throughout my childhood, and then came back to it as an adult and had done it for a number of years before someone said, you should write a book about that. So it's been something that I've been living with for a while usually. For me, it takes maybe 2 or 3 years to write a book, if it's a book of any size. Obviously, a picture book doesn't take as long because a picture book is usually 1,000 words or less. So that didn't take a long time to compose the picture book. But maybe 2 years to write the first draft of the book. And then it takes a while to sell the book typically. The unusual thing with Jayla Jumps In is the very first editor I sent it to bought it. And after she said yes, it took maybe another 2 years before it was finally published. So it's a slow process. So I would say the main stages are getting it written, because I always have lots of ideas. I have a zillion ideas floating in my head that I could pull from, but choosing an idea and committing to that, getting the work done, being disciplined about coming back to it month after month to keep writing on it till you have a completed manuscript. And then the process of sending it out to different publishers and not being discouraged, because usually that takes a while before you find a marriage where you and an editor meet minds. So the challenge, I think the biggest challenge is the discipline in getting it written and completing it, and then finding someone who likes the story well enough to publish it.
Right. Yes. Really, really true. So awesome. So interesting, people. Yes. We are really happy that we have a lot of questions coming in. There is one more, and this is really interesting. Often I come across children's books with characters that could scare even adults. In your opinion, what are your characters look like? Do kids like your pictures? Taya, let's begin with you this time.
Yes, no, so I didn't know, but my childs, for example, now my books in the bibliotheques of my town when I'm living, and I'm connecting with many childs about this and parents about this, and they told yes, it's a very kind. It's only what I heard about this. I don't know our position, but I don't know because. I didn't like these characters, scary characters. It's not my feeling, do you know? It's really, I don't know, maybe for some people, my how space works, like artist, it's scary, I don't know. But I'm trying including a good sentence inside. If, like mom, when I'm trying to find the books, all the times I thought, okay, it's not so scary or it's scary. For sure, with Harry Potter, me child not seeing the Harry Potter's movie because it's very scary. And the third part of these books, we can read only in our languages, not so, because when you are reading in our languages, you not to fall too deep in the story. You can separate with things what's inside, because starting the third times it's really scary story. I like very much with with books, but it's for my child at 11 years old. I thinking it's not so experience so good for this moment in their native languages,
Right. Yes. And that's a smart tip. Yes, people. So if you want to share some content with your children that you are not 100% sure that it's too good, share it in other language. Yes. At least you get some benefit of learning the other language. Meanwhile. All right. Joy, I have a question to you. You mentioned earlier that children don't play on the streets that much nowadays, right?
Yeah.
So, and children don't read that much either. I mean, the paper books. We got a whole big competition with cartoons. We got video games, and everything is getting increasingly more. I should probably say more impactful because everything is so fast nowadays. Yes. How can we even compete with this super bright and fast world of video games and cartoons with our children books?
Well, if children imitate what adults do, so adults need to read books, be physically active. And so if your kids see you doing it and enjoying it, they're more likely to do it, if not right now, then later on when they can appreciate your wisdom. When I do book talks for Jayla Jumps In, uh, it's not always practical to bring the whole Double Dutch team to demonstrate Double Dutch to them. But I tell children about games I used to play in addition to jumping rope, games that did not involve computers, games that in many cases didn't even require a battery. So I bring in some of those toys to show them what I used to play with. For example, I don't know if this was popular in Russia, but this is called a slinky, and it's a wire. You've seen this before? It's a spiraled wire, uh, and you just look at it move, and you can have it put it on a incline, and it'll walk down the steps by itself if you set it up the correct way. So I pass that around. This is called a kaleidoscope, and you put it up to your eye and turn, and you see colored bits of glass, and it makes interesting patterns. So I pass that around, and they get a chance to play with the kaleidoscope. Uh, this is something that I had a lot of fun with as a kid, blowing bubbles. So I pass that around, and kids do still blow bubbles. So a lot of times when I pass these and other toys around the room and they start playing with them, they get captivated and they realize there are ways to have fun that don't require a battery or a computer or a digital website or a video game. And I'm hoping that some of that connects and they might try it again at a later time.
Yay. Yeah. So that's the way, people. Yes. Example and passion. And patience.
Patience,
Patience too.
yes.
Sometimes it takes years. Yes. For example, I started to appreciate a lot of wisdom of my father only when I ended up being here on the island, far, far away
Ah,
from his words. Yes, yes, yes. Only years after. All right, yes, people. I got some more interesting, trendy question. Yes, and this is about AI. Yes, so a lot of people think that AI, artificial intelligence, at some point will be able to learn to do all the creative work as good as we do it. Yes, as humans do it. Do you think is it even possible that AI can manage with children books because it's so much about feeling the atmosphere, the thing? Yeah. So would AI ever be able to somehow get into this? Is it any danger for authors of children book? Taya, what do you think? AI and children books?
um, how interesting questions. It's about AI. It's a new generation. You know, we childs will be new generation too. Maybe that's why we're not understanding clearly how it will be working with new generation. But about this time, I can tell. Yes, it's like where is two type of books. Where is most books about was like publish company to creating of rules when we have uh, like when we told you, okay, you need sheets 10 sheets about these characters with only with text with something clearly like situation what we're repeating all the times. It's like it's not only commercial products, for sure there is some art inside, but it's most understandable for I'm understanding why, because we want to publish and have results. We sell because we segments. I don't know how segment. We're part of books. We very child's waiting with books in very same we are very same, with books. And for this type of books, I'm sure with AI can be do the same. Can do have analyzation analyze this recollecting the all in creating something the same. But for books, like was creating with ideas, with story of artists, like Joy, for example, with which story will be touching people because their experience was the same, was the way we can see in your books their stories, their child's stories, And for sure, no, I'm not sure what can be AI repeating the memories and senses the people, humanity. It's and for we stories, which was many child story, very great child story, like Alice from Wonderland. These books I came to translating Ветер вывах, the windy
Wind in the
joy.
willow. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's a story for their child. And the parents told story for their child's parents on the. I told about two books what I know about what they was about for their child's. It's story. It's magic. It's the things what can be repeating. But for the first variant, maybe.
All right. Yes. What about you, Joy? Any insights on AI? Yes. Is it any danger for children books authors, or maybe it's a good help? Maybe you are already using it in your work.
No, I don't use artificial intelligence, and yes, it's a danger for all writers, even creative writers. Uh, the primary danger, I think, is computers have the ability to do, or machines in general have the ability to do nearly everything that humans do, but that doesn't mean that we ought to allow machines to do everything that humans can do. You can buy a cookie from the store and it can be delicious, but if you bake the cookie yourself and eat it, that's a different experience because you made the cookie. And I don't, if we have machines do everything for us, I think we're denying our own humanity. And even though, yes, it might be quicker to go to the store and buy the food already made, but you lose something in not having the process of preparing it yourself. And I say that as someone who doesn't even like to cook, but still I can respect the process of humans making something ourselves. And so I think when I write, I'm thinking about the reader. The machine, the computer, the artificial intelligence is not thinking about the individual child or adult who might pick up the book and what I want him or her to feel. So I think losing that part of the connection from one person to another would be a terrible loss if we go too far in that direction.
Oh yes, yes, definitely true. It has value in itself and of its own. Yes, absolutely true. That process. More questions are coming in our chats, and we have such a question in here. How do you keep up with the changes in children's tastes and preferences in literature over the years? Have you noticed any specific trends in children's interests? This is interesting. Okay. Who wants to comment on this can go.
I'll
Go
comment on that. I don't try to write to the market. I write what I find interesting and hope that other people will find it interesting too. I pay attention to what's going on in the world of publishing, but I don't let that dictate what I write necessarily. And one of the trends is that there's an effort to be more inclusive, to write stories by people who previously were ignored by the publishing company. For example, in my case, more stories by and about Black people, stories about people with different conditions, medical or physical conditions, including people who you don't often see in literature being given a voice in as the protagonist in a story. So that's a trend that I like.
Awesome. Yes. And that's a strong position, people. We got a new question here, and that's interesting. Yes. And I think Taya also might have some words on this. Do you have some books about animals? Yes. So maybe we can get to see the crocodile from the book. Yes. And to you, Joy, too, of course. Yes. If you have some books about animals, let's go.
People are fascinating to me, far more fascinating than anything else on planet Earth. So no, I don't have any books about animals.
Got it.
Yes, I have some books, some stories what I not that wasn't published in this moment because I want to create the first part, second part, the third part. It was the first what I came to show. Yes, it's about the crocodile in the small birds. It's very I don't know. It's very popular, popular company together, and for sure because it's like for childs, it's I think that for childs it's really normal to feeling like animals, like have personality sides, like humanity, where we're not it's most easy for them to not feeling so difficult, like it's the same like my friends from school, and now it's a good experience too, but how I'm feeling, where it's our part too, when we can be understanding something from example. Okay. With birds, did this strange thing. Maybe I'm too doing this strange thing in my life, but we're not thinking about what story about them, And about them, about my stories, those animals were all stories, It was animals. Was in one of my stories, a raining boy. It was really I'm not to publish with I'm not published. Sorry for my English. I'm feeling strange. Uh, um, it was about like playing with words, with real animals and real rain or boys. All the times I'm playing with words, It's in one moment you can think in what it's real character, it's child's. Another moment you're understanding it not, but they have the same sides of their identity, and most about languages. I didn't know how to translate it because it's playing with word in my native language is Russian. And when we are starting our discussions, it's really difficult. It's why very difficult to translating, because sometimes artists or writers creating things like feeling, rhythm,
Yeah, the
it's
rhythm.
yes.
Yeah, awesome, people. Yes, actually, we don't have much time left. Yes, we got like 10, 15 minutes left. So I encourage people in the chats on YouTube and vk.com to send more questions. We'll be happy to answer them. And let me touch one interesting topic. So the classic dream of an author or of a future author is, to get published with a big publisher, get your books around the world and also sell them, maybe make some passive income with that. Let me touch the other side of the story, self publishing. Yes, so when you publish a book, not a big quantity, a little bit, and you start spreading it around. So that was the story about Taya's book. Actually, our friend Sergey Ivanov from Hip Hop Library Russia, Joy also knows him because that was our initial contact in Moscow. Grand Pap, yes, Hip Hop Library Russia, who supported and hosted the project with Double Dutch back then in Russia. Yes, so he helped to publish that book, self-publish it, and spread it around hip hop libraries in Russia. Joy, do you have any experience with self-publishing books, or maybe if not you, then people do it, your friends do it, if they can't find any publisher who wants to, publish it for them? What about self-publishing?
Yes, I was part of a performance poetry group, and we would do performances all around town. And we self-published a book of our poems. And because we had an audience, we would do a show, and then after the show, we would sell the book. That helped us to spread the word around. It didn't. I think we sold maybe 1,000 copies. In addition, to get the book published initially, we wrote a grant, and the grant paid for us to cover our publishing costs. So, and that we sold was profit for us. So that worked out really well. Part of the grant was that we gave away the first 100 copies, which was not a problem. And then everything over that we could sell and keep the funds. So I would say to someone who's self-publishing to try to identify the people who are likely to purchase your book and work out a marketing plan to reach that audience so that you have some expectation of earning the money back.
Yes. Yes, cool piece of advice. And also, yeah, grants, they do help, of course. Yes, yes, this is awesome as well. Yes. Meanwhile, new question in the chat. Yes. Thanks for asking. This one is great. What advice would you give to aspiring children's book authors looking to make their mark in the industry?
I have a couple of things to suggest. One, be prepared for a long haul. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Get used to being rejected. Being rejected is part of the writer's journey. I would also say to try to cultivate your audience even before your book comes out. Think about who the likely reader is. A lot of times, new writers are asked, "Who's your audience?" And they say, "Everybody." No, not everybody wants to read your book. There are people who like poetry. There are people who like children's books. There are people who like science fiction. The person who likes science fiction may not be the same person who likes mystery books. So if you're writing a mystery, find out, join groups of other mystery book lovers. Begin to get to know those people and have them get to know you so that you're spreading your market and engage with those people on a regular basis, even before you have a book to sell. So that once your book is ready, whether you're self-publishing or traditional publishing, you have some potential readers who are likely to buy the book.
Yeah, awesome advices, people. Yes, this is so awesome. Yes, and I hope this is gonna inspire a lot of people and help them out, and maybe we'll get to have a whole new wave of interesting stuff coming up in Russia and in the US. Who's watching this? Yes, I'm really happy about this. Yes, Taya, what about you? So you had that thing that Joy was describing just now when you send your books, like initially 2 years ago when you started sending out the emails to the publishers, and then they were saying, "Oh, this is not interesting. We don't need that. This is, we can't." What was your reaction? How did you deal with that? With that, rejection? Yes. How
You
did it
know,
feel? Yes. What make you keep going? Why did you keep going?
maybe for sure it's I have two part of this of these reactions with silence and it's normal. You need understanding what when you will send this will be silence, maybe not for all. It's work too, to sending to searching. It's like Joy tells about the audience. The publishing is the same. You need understanding in which publishing you are sending this. Do you know? And when I first times it was okay, but I have two letters where it was pandemia. Many editorials in Spanish publish company told me the small that okay, it's I have two letters when big letters from redactors. They told me it's a good story. I like this, but we have crisis now.
Yeah,
Because
pandemic. Yeah.
in Spain, in Spain there is crisis now for this because the pandemic we closed all, and we can't to take this story because many pictures. For printing this it was too much because it's many and new authors. It's difficult for them to promotion this, but it's and I was normal. I thought like it's okay. But after this, very story with my book after in the bibliotheks and from people in our projects, it's starting the books starts to live there. Their life,
It gained community life. Yes,
Yes,
yes, yes.
community
Community
life.
supported it. Yes.
It's I like what I have this experience because it's a demonstration that not only when you publish your things, it can be working. It can be really starting to why we are writing. No, we are writing because we want to speak about something very important for us. I for me it's like this. And when I am speaking about my audience, I'm like Joy tells, it's like some person with whom I'm speaking. I can imagine which ages we have and ours. And when I started to see the real person who uh, who reading my books in the bibliotheks, our projects, it's very very good sense. It's like it's not about so only business things like edition and others and publishing. It's what I'm normal
Yeah.
to reading different.
Awesome. Yes. And it's awesome that we have, different stories, different examples, and different paths and different stages of one path. This is awesome. Yes. I love this so much about this discussion today. People, we're about to wrap this up soon. So, yes, probably we'll accept one more lucky question from the chats on YouTube and vk.com. Maybe Telegram users, they would like to send something in. Yes. American Center Moscow, much love for setting up all these conversations. This is beautiful, incredible guests all the time. Yes, and much joy to have Joy around. This is so great. Yes. Before we continue that search for the lucky final question, Joy and Taya, let me ask you to read something from your books, to quote something. Yes. So Joy is going to do that in English, and Taya, you can do that in Russian. Yes, because we have the Russian audience. Yes. Let's listen to your books. Yes, let's hear them from the authors themselves. This is exciting and magical.
I have another book for young people, for teenagers, called Fearless Public Speaking. And actually, a lot of adults are afraid of public speaking. So I'll read something from that.
Let's go.
Suppose you were a teacher and you had to present a geography lesson to your class, but you had to teach one student at a time. You'd have to repeat that same lesson 20 or 30 times. Suppose the president wanted to tell each citizen about a new tax law. If done one-on-one, that explanation would be given 6.1 million times to the residents in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area alone. Now you know why public speaking was invented.
Hey, big up. Yes, much love. This is so awesome. Actually, I think if there is one book we definitely want to have in Hip Hop Library Russia, then that's that book. Sergey Grandpap Small One. Let's get that book. Yes, let's have it in Russian hip hop libraries because that's the stuff we need. Yes, that's the real public speaking with this important hip hop vibe to it. We love that. Yes, Taya, let's hear something from you. Yes, read it out.
Okay. I'm starting from this. У крокодила было невероятное количество имен. Кокодрил и кукудрил, крокодил и крокотили, бая, мамба и матан. Он узнавал их по надписям на ящике, в котором путешествовал. Крокодил летал по миру с выставками, чем невероятно гордился. И даже знал целых 5 языков. Вот только говорить на них ему было не с кем. Как только он открывал пасть, собеседники сразу исчезали. От этого ему было очень грустно знать столько всего интересного и не иметь возможности ни с кем обсудить. It's
I
about
don't know what you said, but it sounded very poetic and very.
It
Thank you.
was. Yes, I personally love that part. People, yes, much love. Yes, this is so great. Yeah, because we didn't translate that, and it's impossible to translate. It had a lot to do with the names of the characters. Yes, the names, the way they sound, the play with the words. Joy, let me ask you on the same topic. So tell us a little bit about the names of the characters in your books. I'm sure they're special somehow, like Jayla, the other characters. Like, what about their names? Are they somehow related to some stories? How do you come up with them?
The character Jayla was originally called Kayla. In my first draft of the book. And then when I was preparing my book proposal and I was looking at other books on the market that were similar to mine, I discovered another book about double Dutch, and the main character's name was Kayla. And one of the members of her double Dutch team was named Melissa. And one of the members of the double Dutch team in my book was named Melissa. Now, I did not know this writer. We did not communicate with each other in any way. But it was interesting that the names were similar. So I had to change some of the names in my book so it wouldn't be a carbon copy of her book.
Whoa! Yes. So there are a lot of plot twists when doing this, right? Yes, you may find out that people have very similar names. And Taya also had that story because in Russian this is called Чистая игра, and there is a whole project in Russia. That is not related to this book, but is related to cleaning up the nature, and it's also called something very close, Чистые игры, I think, right? Something like this.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes.
the same projects. But I have other parts of these stories about when we are translating with my friend Alanis the Hope. She is the illustrator too, and she is Spanish person. That's why she understanding the story of languages with jokes of languages and what's its meaning in the rhythm of languages. When we, about our characters, crocodile, it was the first this part by Mamba y Matan. It sounds very terrible in Spanish. And she told, no, we need to change English because it's meaning very, very terrible things. And that's why to my thing, to my books, very different names for them. Because we need to change it. She's understanding this because she is a native person she's native Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yes,
why.
yes. That's true. They are absolutely different. True. Spanish and Russian version totally different. Yes, but it has the same feeling. So big up to Alanis who translated this. Yes, beautiful work. All
Mhm.
right, people. So that lucky question from the chat didn't come. Then we can spend the last minutes of this streaming talking about community work y'all do. Yes. I don't know if it's related with the books you write or it's something else. Let us know about community projects you're up to, because Joy is big in this thing. Actually, thanks to Joy, Small One, and I, when we were visiting United States, the US, when we were visiting Washington DC, we were able to go to very, very important places and give some workshops there. Yes, and Taya has her work with cleaning up actions on the beach with local community here. So let's wrap it up with some beautiful wisdom about community work we do and social activism we do. Joy, what about you? Yes, tell us your stories.
Well, one thing I do is I work at a mental hospital here in Washington, D.C. And Babish, I was very glad to be able to host you at the hospital so you could uh, do a hip hop presentation for the patients there.
Much
In
love.
fact, I'll be going there in 2 weeks to present them with a book of their poems. I do creative writing workshops there, and I'm going to give them a book of their poems and also a poetry video where I had actors act out some of the poems. So that's going to be a big celebration. So I'm looking forward to that.
So awesome. Yes. Beautiful stuff. Yes. So let me clarify again. So you are publishing a book with the stories that people in the hospital wrote, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Mhm. Great idea. Yes. Beautiful message. Really awesome. Yes. Taya, what about you? Community work. What about the projects you do? Tell us a little bit.
Now I have two projects. I'm not only not alone. You are two in these projects, and
Mhm.
it's a big project about education about how to clean the walls inside your community. It's many projects with where is the same idea about to cleaning around, but we are trying to in uh, how to in, scalate,
Yeah.
uh,
Connect. Hmm.
connect the community the community of our city. It's not local community, and these projects like shops and others, we are trying to only we all the times when child's recollecting something, they collect the points about to participate in different events too, in our projects in our city, in our town. It's about local community, how to connect with all people, all part of this, not only cleaning or doing events and others. Because second my projects, I'm doing the art class for people. It's for my neighborhoods, because I'm believing what education, what inspiration need to be open without borders for with money and others, for because some people haven't possibility to participate in the class of art, for example, because it's very it's so much money for paying for materials, for tickets, for entering and participate in that's why yes, I'm trying to connect with two projects in our local community.
Great stuff. Yes, free classes really important. Yes, great, great, great people. Yes, I thank you two so much for joining in today and sharing beautiful words of wisdom about your paths with writing children books. Yes, I hope we got many people inspired with this. Share this video with your friends. If you have a beginner author who is looking into this or maybe is scared about trying, share this video. We have cool vibes in here. we show that this is for everyone. Everyone can try and everyone can succeed in one way or another. And this is beautiful about this path, that you can, you can find your own way of making through all this. Cool. Final shout outs from you, Joy and Taya, and we wrap it up.
Visit me on my website, www.joyjonesonline.com.
We will. Yes, we will.